Hello and welcome to another episode of Take the Black Live. My name is Daniel Roman here for winteriscoming.net, and we have a great show for you guys here today. You might notice Dan Selke, my intrepid co-editor, not here today. In his stead, Camila Domingues, our resident Monsterverse, Star Trek, many nerdy things expert. Camila, how are you doing today?
Hey Daniel, I'm doing good. I'm excited because Star Trek and Godzilla and all the things, and I just got this lovely shirt, and I'm just over the moon, and I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. Always. It is always a blast to have you on the show. And hey there, Martha, in the chats. Sound off if you're in the chat. Let us know you're there because we have a lot of stuff to talk about with you guys today. Little light on the Westeros front, but fortunately, we live in a golden age of dinosaurs and space lasers and kaiju and spaceships and all that sort of stuff. So we've got a lot of things to talk about. But first, as we always do, we will start out with just a smidge of Westeros news. So the House of the Dragon, the dueling trailers. Camilla, have you had a chance to see both of these?
Yes, yes, I
O-
have. Very
Okay.
excited.
Yeah, they're pretty cool. And it seems like the excitement was infectious because we got word this week that apparently those dueling trailers set a new record for HBO. They got over 80 million global views in their first 72 hours and inspired like almost 300,000 posts on social media, which apparently is a record for Max.
That's
So,
insane.
yeah, exciting times. Everyone's hyped for House of the Dragon. Hey there, Nicole. So Camilla, my question for you, because you weren't here, I think last week we picked through these trailers frame by frame, shot by shot, and looked at a bunch of cool stuff. Did you have a favorite? Was there one you liked more or less?
Um, Honestly, no. And it's hard, it's really hard to pick a favorite from both because sure, I am team black the whole way, 100%. My girl is my
Okay.
girl. Yes.
But you
But
like Aemond, right?
I do.
Am I
Aemon
remembering
is a
right?
huge exception.
Okay.
Aemon is like my heartthrob, my House of the Dragon heartthrob. I don't know why. He just is. I just love how he's portrayed in this. And um
It's that one
I'm
eye.
excited. I'm very excited just to see like little glimpses here and there. I try not to like I haven't had a chance to sit down and really like speculate the trailers a lot or just like examine them. But from what I
Yeah.
see, like, oh, this is gonna be a good season.
Yeah, there's a lot of cool stuff in them. It definitely seems like it's gonna be a good season. Like fingers crossed it should be. If it's not, something went horribly wrong. Um, hey there, Julie in the chats. You are right on time, not even a bit late. Dan he's out of the office today. He's off doing personal Dan things. He will be back next week, and all is well with him, I believe.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that's pretty much all we have to report for Westeros this week. No new casting stuff. It was a big week last week with the trailers and the week before because they've been out for like 2 weeks at this point.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there will be more stuff to talk about on the Westeros front. Duncan Egg. Do you know anything about Duncan Egg, Camilla?
I know the story. I've read the little novella and things, and I'm aware that they're making a show. I just haven't seen any more details of like when like a realistic release date
Yeah.
or anything in that realm yet.
Yeah, so I think we don't know a whole lot about Duncan Egg. They haven't announced any castings, but it is supposed to start filming, I believe, this summer. I want to say around like June or maybe late May. So that is in pre-production right now. It's kind of winding up. So what we've been guessing is we'll get alternating years with Duncan Egg next year and
Mm-hmm.
House of the Dragon on the other years. But yeah, I assume we'll get some news for that pretty soon. But until then, all's quiet. Our watch continues. But let's talk about something we can talk about this week a little bit more. One of your areas of expertise. So, Godzilla X Kong, Godzilla times Kong, I'm going to call it, the new Empire is out now. That's the latest in Legendary's MonsterVerse movies.
Hmm.
Um, it's off to a really good start at the box office. It took
Oh, yeah.
in 80 million domestically this opening weekend, uh, and which makes it the second biggest movie opening of the year after Dune.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so you've seen this.
Yes.
How did you feel about it? Like, what are you are very well versed in the MonsterVerse. So what are your thoughts on this?
I loved it. It was great. Like, sure, I have some issues just with the lore and the delivery of the lore, but that's just getting too technical. But
Okay.
as far as like the movie, as far as that as the movie goes, really, really well done. It was fun. It felt like I was sitting down and watching like a Jurassic Park movie, the original
Oh,
Jurassic Park.
cool.
Like it just gave me that kind of like excitement and thrill. And I took my 7-year-old twins to go watch it with me because they, much like their
Nice.
mom, are little MonsterVerse nerds. And they also just had a blast. They loved it. It was easy to follow along for them. It was really neat. And I really like one of my favorite things about the movie is how there's this whole entire scene where Kong meets this new baddie and they're all the same kind of species, and then there's the whole trying to establish the alpha relationship and everything. And during the entire exchange of Kong with this new, like the new ape civilization he finds, um
Mhm.
it's so cool because you can tell exactly what's being said, what's being implied, and what's like how the story is going, just solely based on their expressions and their grunts and all of that. And just that communication, the expression on every single Titan in this movie, the expression on their faces and their gestures and everything, they felt like they felt like they were there acting, even though they're CG. You
That's
know?
really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like that's not something you not to say you don't expect that in a MonsterVerse or kaiju movie, but it's kind of like a pleasant surprise. Like I feel like when they're at their best, you kind of get that a little bit where they feel like they're emoting. You can kind of understand what they're saying. Even back to like the really old ones, like the original King Kong, like that's like stop motion, very old, but like there is an element of that that's about like him communicating with
Yeah.
the lead character. So that's really cool. So that they felt alive in this one.
They did, and it
Um,
was cool just because, like, comparing it to Godzilla minus one, which I absolutely love, and I could like
yeah.
obsessively check the internet to see if they've announced when the Blu-ray is going to come out in the US. They have a Japan date, but they don't have one here.
Ah,
But I know, God, come on, Toho, what are you doing? But no, like just comparing the two different kinds of like just Godzilla movies and the Godzilla beasts in each movie, they're very different, and it's cool to see like two different sides of the same beast in a few months.
yeah. I mean that is I can't remember a time where I don't know how often the Toho ones really even make it over here to American theaters. But I can't remember a time where we had a Toho one, which for those of you listening who may not know, it's basically like two totally separate franchises.
Hmm.
Do you want to explain this a little bit, like just broadly for people listening? So we got the Japanese Godzilla franchise that goes back
Yes,
to the
goes back to
50s.
1954 is when the first
Okay.
Godzilla movie came out, 1954. And they released, I believe they're up to like 30, I'm gonna get this wrong, 34 or 35
A
movies.
lot.
A lot,
Yeah.
but
Too many to
but
easily count.
yeah. So they released a bunch of movies just involving Godzilla, and they have like other kaijus like Mothra, they have Mecha Godzilla, and they have obviously like King Kong and stuff. And um, I don't know what sparked the hey, let's make Godzilla a US thing too, but um, Legendary Studios and Warner Brothers have paired up and made movies since 2014, not counting the original Godzilla in the 90s. Yeah,
Yeah.
is that even the original US Godzilla? I don't know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure. I know there was one in the I think early 2000s with Matthew Broderick that
Oh
was
yeah,
like
that's sorry. I said
panned.
90s, but I meant early 2000s. I clearly don't.
Turn of the century,
Yeah, yeah,
we could say.
yeah. So
Fantasy Fan says it's
yeah,
totally great movie, a fun popcorn
it
movie.
is a fun popcorn
And
movie.
it's which is really cool. Like you talked about these two, almost different versions of Godzilla. And so I haven't seen minus one, to my great shame. I still have not seen it. I haven't seen this one either.
I'm gasping
So
over here.
my two questions for you with this.
Uh-huh.
One, which should we be prioritizing to watch if I haven't seen either? And two, do you think there's room at the box office for basically two very different types of Godzilla movies? Because minus one is, I'm assuming you could eat popcorn during it, but I don't know if you would classify it. Would you call that a fun popcorn movie? They're a little different, right?
Right, they're completely different. So to answer your question, as much as I'm a huge Monsterverse fan, when it comes to those two, minus one blows it out of the water. And it's not just
Okay.
because of the action or anything. The actual story in the movie, I get goosebumps just remembering it. It's really powerful. It's, post-war
Cool.
Japan. They're desperate, like to get some sense of normalcy and go back to normal life and figure out what normal life looks like after World War II now. And Godzilla just says, "Hey, what's up? I'm here to just break everything. Bye." And that's what
Yeah,
Godzilla does. And he is legitimately a bad guy in minus one, which in the US, like in the
cool.
Monsterverse, sure, he's a bad guy, but we're like his playthings. So nobody else
Mhm.
can mess with us except for him. So if any other kid tries to put in, a hand in his toy chest, he just, mine.
Yeah,
That's more of like what the legendary studios Godzilla is more like. But um I would prioritize minus one to watch first and grab
gotcha.
tissues.
Okay.
And grab tissues.
Okay, and grab
I did not
tissue.
expect, I
All
wrote a
right.
huge thing on this. Like I did not expect to
Yeah.
come out of a Godzilla movie crying my eyes out.
Okay. I remember seeing this when you first wrote about it.
Yeah.
So duly noted, tissues.
Yeah.
Minus one gets your vote, but Godzilla times Kong, Godzilla X Kong, however we want to say it,
Uh-huh.
it's still doing really well. My question, another question kind of about that is, what would you recommend for people to go watch this? Could you just go watch this not having seen other MonsterVerse movies? Is this like an Avengers type movie where you really need to have seen at least a couple of the other ones to know what's going on?
Yes. If anything, like if you're not into the Monsterverse movie and you don't feel like sitting through five amazing like destruction filled movies, I get it. Whatever. But
Who
why
are you?
not? It's
What
so
are we
much
doing
fun.
here? But okay.
It's okay to be wrong, but so I would watch if you had to go see it without watching all five, you at least have to watch the Godzilla versus Kong and you at least have to watch King of Monsters.
Gotcha.
Those two. When it comes to Godzilla, and then I'm blanking out. Oh no, yeah. Yeah, because the fifth one would be yeah, so yeah, you just gotta watch those two out of the four that are out before you see this.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I know. So Kong Skull Island, that
Oh,
one
so
was
good.
kind of a period piece, if I remember right. It's set in
Yeah,
like
it
the
was boring.
70s or 80s. Yeah, I was not a huge fan. I'm a lifelong King Kong fan. I love the King Kong movies. I didn't really like Skull Island very much, but the Godzilla movies of the MonsterVerse have been really good. So
Mhm.
I wasn't really surprised because I think I've heard you say this before that the ones you really need to see before Godzilla X Kong are Godzilla v Kong, which is the first
Yeah.
crossover movie, and King of the Monsters.
Yes.
So Godzilla v Kong, I'm not surprised. This seems like it's a direct continuation of it. To have any idea about the relationship between these two kaijus, like that's really what the first movie was about.
Mhm.
Why King of the Monsters? Why do we
Um,
need to see that one too?
One, because Ghidorah is awesome. King Ghidorah is just one of
Okay,
the coolest titans
that's
out there.
fair.
But besides that, it's
Mothra?
mostly lore. Mothra too. You need to find out what happens to
Okay.
Mothra in King of Monsters before you watch the new one. And
Okay.
just to also get a feel for like why Godzilla is treated the way he is treated in this movie, or like he's basically like a ticking time bomb, and how Monarch gets to
Hmm.
like kind of keep tabs on him and somewhat like they can kind of read his actions, like what he's gonna do. They can kind of figure out like what he wants to do based on what's going on, like whatever situation's going on around the world. um it would be for lore reasons. to watch. Like it would be a good idea to watch King of the Monsters.
Gotcha. So one other thing I've always been curious about with the Monsterverse, because the Monsterverse, it's interesting. I feel like you don't hear it not like talked about tons and tons, but it is one of the very few examples of like a cinematic universe that like studios tried to copy the MCU and it actually like worked. Like with this latest Godzilla and Kong movie, it's now like the franchise as a whole has made over 2 billion at the box office. So like it's established like they're going to keep making these. But there's also an Apple TV Plus show, right? Is that part of the same continuity?
Yes.
And how essential is it?
Um, it's essential if you care about lore. Monarch
Okay.
basically it's between Godzilla and Godzilla versus Kong. It just kind of
Oh,
wedges
okay.
itself right there. It's like a year. It happens a year after the events of Godzilla, the 2014 movie. And
Gotcha.
it's heavy on the Monarch side. Very heavy on the Monarch side and the lore and how it's established. And then I'm not like there's certain things towards the end that lead into the other movies.
Gotcha. Okay. Um, Andrew in the chat, howdy to you too. Glad to see you in the chat, Andrew. Um, cool. So it sounds like overall you enjoyed the latest movie. It was relatively easy to follow. You have any other thoughts, any other things you really loved about it, hated about it? Here's a soapbox. What would you like to say about Godzilla times Kong?
I would like to say, I'm just kidding. I love the movie. I love the movie, and there was some things like the physics aspects of things just go way over my head, but that's because I'm not very scientifically inclined to begin with. So that kind of stuff can be a little like hard to grasp, but everything else is great. There are the actor that I completely forget the name of, who plays the vet. I'm so sorry. You are wonderful, truly wonderful. Like it was good humor that was placed appropriately and wasn't over the top. Like this movie had everything. It was basically an Avengers movie for lizards, giant lizards and giant apes.
Sweet.
And I
That
really
sounds
enjoyed
fun.
that. I like destruction scenes. I have a lot of like auditory sensory things, but the one thing that has always been able to escape that has been Godzilla's roar for some reason. So I just like to
Okay.
bask in that noise. It's just a good movie overall. Just a couple things here and there that I can't remember in particular. I have them written down somewhere because I just like to take notes as soon as I get out of theaters. I like to do
As
voice
it
notes
goes.
so I can go back and listen to it later. But I overall like I highly recommend everyone to go watch Godzilla X Kong, the New Empire, because the bad guy in this is actually really scary.
Now,
He's
okay,
scary.
man, I want to add, I don't want to spoil stuff. But I am the bad guys have me really curious with this because there's the red ape. We've all seen that in the trailer. There are also
Hmm.
hints that there could be more than just the red ape that we get
Hmm.
in one of the trailers. There's an ice beam, an inexplicable ice beam. So
My
yeah,
kids named it Elsa.
oh, okay. All right. So probably just misunderstood then
Yeah.
and looking for acceptance and love. Got it.
Yeah.
Um
She has to let it go. I'm just sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll stop.
fair. Yeah, so the only other thing I will say, it's funny that you talk about like the city destruction, the audio sensory stuff, which yeah, no roars really sound quite like Godzilla, which is a good thing. I always
Hmm.
get bothered when I hear movies like reusing the T-Rex roar from Jurassic Park because it's a really common sound effect at this point. So I
Hmm.
love that Godzilla still has its own very unique sound.
Yeah.
There is, I don't know how this hasn't broken the internet, and this is as close as
Huh?
I'm going to come to a spoiler. Apparently, there's a scene in this where Godzilla suplexes King Kong next to a pyramid. And I feel
Absolutely.
like if you want a perfect example of how this is a fun popcorn movie, it is that. How is that not broken the internet?
I don't know
Um,
how, but it should because the moment that it happens, we're all like, "Ah!" Just like it's just really, really good.
cool.
It's
Cool.
it, That whole entire
Um,
sequence, I'm not spoiling anything, but that whole entire sequence was just a mix of like hilarious and just intense action.
Cool. That got me more excited than like most of the marketing. I saw the clip of the suplex and I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to go see it just for this because that's absurd.
Yeah, it
Um,
was also in a weird note, it was really exciting to see monsters destroy a city in my country instead of the US for once.
okay, fair.
And that's all I'm
That's nice.
saying.
We need some, equal global destruction here in the
Yes,
Monsterverse, please.
we needed some.
Um, yeah. So, anything else you want to say about Godzilla before we move on to our next final frontier?
I like the pun there.
Haha.
No.
Thank you.
No, that was it. Just go watch it. It's a heck of a lot of fun. Buy popcorn. You'll eat the entire thing, I promise. I did.
Yeah. Cool. All right. So, eh, who have we got in the chat here? Yep. Like
Oh, like
magic. I
magic.
hope you enjoy it. Thank you, Andrew, for the hat love. I had to rock my Final Fantasy hat because I'm going to talk about it just a little bit later on because I finished. I'm obsessed.
Oh,
But
you
before
finished
we,
it?
I did 130 hours. I finished it. Um,
Dang.
but so and sticking to television for a few more minutes first.
Mhm.
So, Beyond King Kong, which is exciting. Another new sci-fi thing that is happening tomorrow is that Star Trek Discovery is coming back for its fifth and final season. This is kind of the show that kicked off this new era of Star Trek,
Mhm.
where it had kind of flagged a little bit after like Enterprise, which, like, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like most Star Trek people like Enterprise is one of the less well-regarded ones. Like
At least in
personally,
my
I don't
book,
like it as much.
I
Yeah,
don't like it either.
but Discovery has captured a lot of hearts.
Mhm.
So you have seen it. I know we can't talk spoilers, obviously, it's not out yet. But what are your impressions? Like, what should we be expecting in this final season of Discovery? How are you feeling like that we're here at the end of the road, basically?
I'm honestly sad. I didn't want the show to end after 5 seasons. I've the way that the story has been unfolding and character arcs have been going and new characters introduced and more questions come up. It breaks my heart that it's come to an end on this season. The cast and crew actually didn't know that it was ending after the fifth season until after they had
Oh, wow.
filmed. So they had to like go
Wow.
back and film a couple extra scenes, but like it's a shock because nobody really saw it coming. Um, but I've been lucky enough to be able to watch half of this last season, and it's emotional, it's intense,
Okay.
it's very interesting, and it's like it's a beautiful love letter to like Discovery fans, in my opinion.
Yeah.
The performances are still top notch. Sonequa Martin Green is glorious as Michael.
Cool.
Mary Wiseman is still like perfection incarnate as Tilly. And you know, everybody is yeah, it's perfect performances from everyone and just a lot of just a lot of very, very emotional season.
Okay. So the theme, it seems like for everything we're talking about today, from Godzilla -1 to this, is make sure you bring tissues.
Yes.
Um,
Except you won't need it for Kong, for Godzilla versus Kong, but for -1 you will.
gotcha. That you'll need napkins for popcorn.
Yeah,
Um,
that.
so Discovery is interesting because, the older Star Treks really had like they did have story arcs, but they were very much like Adventure of the Week. And Discovery is not that. It's a
Mhm.
much more like the story is more involved in a little, I don't want to say linear, that doesn't quite feel right, but it's more episodic versus
Mhm.
like Strange New Worlds was kind of a return to that other form. So how well do you think like just the way Discovery did it in terms of like their storytelling? How do you feel like that worked like overall? Like and again, I know we can't really talk the new season, but like I'm just curious what your opinion is on that.
I love the fact that it's an episodic arc. that you don't tune in. I love Discovery and Strange New Worlds both because they're very differently. Strange New Worlds is more the hey, different adventure every week type thing. It's more in
Yeah.
that realm. But then you have Discovery, like the same beautiful CG, the same beautiful like technology, like the same quality of content, but it's a rolling story. And what's not to like about that? Like everything in the last 4 seasons, they just everything just goes together and just paints like the bigger picture that is Discovery. And I think it's very fitting that the name of the show is Discovery and that the ship's name is Discovery,
Okay.
because Star Trek discovered a whole new side of the franchise. It was already inclusive as it was. It was groundbreakingly inclusive, even
Hmm.
with the original series. But with all the inclusion that they have and all the it just all the appeal that they have for everybody, everybody's different, but there's something in there for everyone. And I feel like that was a good way to figure out where to steer the franchise and what direction to go with next.
Yeah.
um it's pretty fitting, but I am very, very sad to see it go. I've been a huge fan of Discovery since the first episode. So I'm like,
Yeah.
no. But
Um, what is the next Star Trek that you think you'll get really hooked on? Do you have like is there already one lined up that you love that will replace Discovery in your heart, or not really
Strange New
yet?
Worlds. Well, Discovery will always have its
Okay.
spot. Like it's like Next Generation,
Sure.
and then Discovery is right there, and then Strange
Oh
New Worlds is
wow.
right next to it. Um,
Okay.
I love
Sorry,
those.
Janeway. I will not tolerate this Janeway shade. I love Voyager.
Voyager's all right.
That's
I grew
fair.
up with Next Generation. Like my dad set my 5-year-old butt down and was like, "Let's watch this," and talk like
Nice.
Picard and talk like Data, and that was I just watched it with my dad. So it's the most familiar Star Trek to me. Um, but Strange New Worlds definitely, and they are having a new show come out called Starfleet Academy. Not a lot of details
Yeah.
yet. But I am excited
Apparently
to
the set's
see.
crazy.
Yeah. I'm hoping it's a good kind of crazy.
Yeah.
I'm hoping with just how things are, and this has nothing to do with the new season of Discovery, but like if we'll see some who will see. I don't even know what the timeline is for what the
Yeah.
timeline is for. Wow, words are really hard today for Starfleet Academy. But it'd be cool to just see what they do with it. And then there's Sector 31. That's the movie that's being made. It has
Yeah.
Michelle Yeoh's Captain Giorgio in it, and I
Yeah.
cannot wait to get my eyes glued on that screen.
Yeah. Michelle Yeoh is never the wrong choice. I'm
No,
intrigued by that. And
have you ever seen
so that
Discovery?
I've not. No, I haven't seen Discovery, partially because when Discovery started airing, it was, God, I don't even remember the name of the streaming service because it was like CBS, like CBS Plus or something. Like before
Yeah,
Paramount Plus was a thing,
yeah,
the CBS kind of used Discovery as its way to get people onto its streaming platform that basically only had Discovery and then whatever other like library titles. So I've missed out. I need to catch up on it at some point.
yeah.
But it is an interesting time for Star Trek because Discovery is kind of, it's setting sail to its ending. And to answer Andrew's question, is it ending due to this is where the
Oh,
story just ends or due to ratings? It's we know that it's not just where the story ends, because like Camilla said a little while ago, they didn't know it was going to be the end when they filmed it. So they had to go back and film some pickup shots to make the ending gel, which makes me a little bit nervous just because, anytime you hear something like that, it's like how much more impactful of an ending could they have had the chance to make if they had just known this was going to be the
it gives
end?
me it gives me Rise of Skywalker PTSD, but that's a whole different talk.
Yeah, yeah, totally. But I think so. All we really know with the ending of Discovery is that it's not clear if it's due to ratings or due to like the changing nature of the streaming business model is kind of
Yeah.
one of the things I've seen said about it.
Yeah.
Because, you know, Paramount, it seems like it's more a strategy shift because they're 5 seasons deep on that show. They have a slew of other shows they're trying to get started, like that Starfleet Academy one. I joked about the set, but that's because that's one of the literal only things we know about it. Like
Hmm.
it's set during this time where, which again, we don't really know the timeline, but where people are training at Starfleet to go join, you know, the USS Enterprise or whatever starship crew. And they built like a campus for it. But that's it. We really don't know too much else about it yet.
Hmm.
So it does seem like they've kind of got Star Trek shows lined up for like the next few years.
I
So
hope so. I hope so because that franchise, that's one that I really hope they never let die. There's just so much
yeah,
you can do with it and so much unexplored territory with it.
yeah, and I hope they find, I don't want to say good ways, but like not creatively bankrupt ways to continue it. Like, you know, I liked that Picard was a thing. That's
Mm.
another one I've been meaning to watch. Like, I can appreciate that they brought back, okay, you have opinions, it sounds like. Did you not like Picard?
Oh, the first like season and a half, I was so disappointed. It was the Kenobi of
Okay.
my Star Trek.
Uh, okay.
I know you love Kenobi. I'm so sorry.
I hate
Oh
Kenobi.
wait, you hate it? Oh God,
I
I thought you
did.
loved it.
I
Yes,
really
I'm
just
safe. Safe.
Yeah, I really
Safe.
disliked Kenobi. I felt like they kind of phoned it in, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate because they had like actors like Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen, and they were great. I don't
Oh
think
yeah.
the specific production elements phoned it in, but there were just elements of it that I don't think quite worked, and it felt a little like they were just trying to rush it out and hoping it would, you know, capitalize on the Star Wars
Yeah.
interest at the time. And that's kind of my fear for Star Trek. Like I saw an article a while back of William Shatner talking about if he would come back to play Kirk. And he was basically like, if there was a good reason to. And the article kind of speculated, like, what if we did a Star Trek Kirk sort of, you know, old man Kirk spinoff? And it's like, that's the perfect example of like what I wouldn't want to happen with Star Trek. Like, I think Strange New Worlds is cool and Discovery because they're doing something interesting and new with the
Hmm.
franchise instead of just how can we keep the
Right.
Frankenstein monster going? So
I will say if a solo solo Kirk series or movie is like being thought of anywhere, please make it Chris Pine. That's all.
yeah,
Thanks.
apparently Star Trek 4, this is another thing
Oh yeah.
related to this because there was like a big, I think it was the Hollywood Reporter article on like all the different Star Trek things going on. And
Hmm.
that was another one they mentioned was that Star Trek 4 with Chris Pine is apparently still a thing that could happen at some point. That would be the end of the Chris Pine Star Trek movies. Do you have any confidence that that might happen?
I hope so. I've heard that the script has been written, but I've heard that it's
Yeah.
cursed. I've like literally that is literally I think it was Chris
Yeah,
Pine himself who used that terminology that the script is cursed. But I believe they have been trying to work on it. And oh my God, I'm so sorry. The kid who plays Spock in that series, he's
Zachary Quinto,
yes, he said that they
Siler from
wanted to.
Heroes.
Yeah, sorry. I'm really bad with names. But I've heard that or I've read that he said like he doesn't really have faith in the show much that it's going to come to fruition or in the movie really that's going to come
Yeah,
to fruition, which breaks my heart, but there are other ways to see Chris Pine like hopefully in the Dungeons and Dragons sequel, you
please give
know.
us that. Yeah, that's a movie. I saw that the 1 year anniversary of that was like earlier this week or last week, and please, you know, TV executives who are obviously watching our podcast, like
Please,
please give
please,
us a
please.
Dungeons and Dragons sequel because that movie was great.
Oh, it was
Um,
excellent. It was
but
excellent.
it was. But yeah, Star Trek 4 has been in basically development hell for years.
Mhm.
And I kind of laughed to myself seeing that they talked about Chris Pine, like the Star Trek 4 was still a thing. because the last time someone, and it was just like a Paramount executive, the last time someone opened their mouth about this Chris Pine movie and said, we're still making it, Chris Pine, like the next week was like, that's news to me. Like he had no idea when they made the press announcement, so that's how he found out.
Oh, lovely.
So yeah, my first thought was, I wonder if Chris Pine knows that Star Trek 4 with Chris Pine is still happening.
I
But
hope so. Be ready,
yeah,
Chris. Your handsome face is needed once again. I mean, your excellent acting skills are needed once again to bring Kirk back to life.
yeah, yeah, he was
Yeah.
a great Kirk.
Oh,
I
he's great.
enjoyed him a lot.
Mhm.
Um, all right. So before we move on to what else we're watching, one anything else you want to say about Discovery? Your
Watch
feelings
it.
on it?
I'm so
Watch it.
excited.
Okay.
It's good. It's good. I can't say anything else.
Gotcha.
It's
Okay.
good.
Fair enough. And the first two episodes of Star Trek Discovery drop tomorrow, April 4th on
Yes,
Paramount Plus. Do you know how many episodes this season is?
I believe. Oh, 8 or 10. I think it's 10. I think it's 10. I could be wrong,
Okay.
but I think it's 10.
10. You're right.
Yeah, 10 is usually
Yeah.
the norm.
I hope 10 stays the norm.
You remember when it was like 20
Uh,
something?
I do. I do. Star Trek remembers.
We took it
Janeway
for granted.
remembers. She got a
What?
cool
So
20 a
does
season.
Picard. So
Yeah.
does Picard. The original, the cool Picard, not the other Picard.
Ouch. Sorry,
Ouch. Sorry.
Jean-Luc. But yeah, so Star Trek Discovery premiering tomorrow. Enjoy all ye Trekkies out there. But beyond that, there's always more stuff to watch, more stuff to read, or games to play, all that sort of stuff. So all of you out there watching, what are you watching? Let us know in the chats. Camilla, what have you been getting into aside from Discovery and the kaijus?
X-Men 97,
Oh, how is
Invincible.
it?
Oh, X-Men 97 is so good. It's literally it's like the animated series never ended. It's like it's the same vibe, same everything. It's the same
Oh
thing.
man.
It's great.
Okay.
It's
I've been
truly great.
so nervous. That's one series where I've been really nervous to check it out because I did really like I
Yeah.
loved the X-Men cartoon as a kid. Like that theme song, it
Oh
remains
yeah.
one of the best cartoon theme songs ever. Um, but I saw clips and like the animation style almost looks a little weird to me because it's newer, it's got kind of like a newer sheen to it.
It
But you've been
does.
really enjoying it.
I've been enjoying it heavily. I can confidently say that the third episode is by far my favorite. It's too good.
Okay.
Um, Today we just had a new episode released today. So that's out there, episode number 4.
Nice. Have you seen it yet?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
Um, is good. I do like that. Like they're one of the what is this? Oh, sorry, I was reading the comments. Yes, it is unreal. It's very unreal. It's really good. Like it's nostalgia, man. But I do like that one of the main, I guess, main mutant characters now that he's just been getting a lot of screen time in the last like
Mhm.
3 episodes. He's Brazilian, so it makes me happy. It's Sunspot and like
Oh, nice.
it's cool. It's just cool to have that representation and that occasional Portuguese in there. So, sometimes
Occasional Portuguese.
sometimes he goes on like the angry Portuguese rant, and I get it. And
Oh, nice.
I'm like, I understand you, bro. I got you. Like, I understand. But no, the series is really good. It's well done. The animation might look just a little wonky because, older looking graphics, but smoother frames, I guess.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah. That's a good way of putting it.
yeah, but I'm very impressed with it so far.
Cool. Okay, you're making a good case for it. I've just been hurt so many times by Disney in the past like 2 years. It's not even about Marvel or about Star Wars anymore. It's just about things
It's just
associated
Disney.
with Disney. I'm just exhausted. But that's great though, because X-Men, that cartoon is something that is really special to a lot of people. So
Oh
it
yeah.
sounds wonderful that they're doing a good job with it. Yeah, exactly like magic. It's Disney induced PTSD.
Yes.
That is
Yes.
spot on. Um, Andrew is living his best animated series life as well. It sounds like X-Men 97, The Bad Batch,
Oh, The Bad Batch, that's
Invincible.
another one.
Have you been watching it? How is it?
Yes. Oh, oh man, buckle up. That's all I have to say.
That's another final season, right?
There's 4 episodes left in the entire series.
Yeah. Oh,
Four
geez.
episodes.
Yeah, so a lot of good animated stuff going on too. Invincible's another one I've been meaning I will watch that one at some point. Just heard so much hype.
Have you
And that
watched?
finale,
You've not
I
watched it
haven't
at
watched
all?
any. No. Nope. That's my
Break
130
my
hours of
heart.
Final Fantasy talking. I have not.
My heart, Daniel. I can't take it.
So
So sad.
how have you been liking the new episodes of season 2, right? Because
Oh,
it's been airing its back half of its
yeah.
season.
Tomorrow is actually the season finale. And then
Cool.
we go on another hiatus of however long until season 3 comes out, which I hope is soon
Yeah.
because the way things end, like it's
Oh,
not
you've already
cool.
seen it?
Yeah.
Okay,
I've been
okay.
sitting on the finale for two
We'll
weeks
keep it
now and I can't
cryptic.
talk about it.
Tomorrow's the day.
I know. I've been sitting on it for 2 weeks. Like I can't talk about it. So I just keep rewatching it. But
Hopefully
um,
this turnaround is quicker
I
because
hope
I
so.
remember reading a while back that they already recorded a lot of the voice work
Oh,
for season
good.
3. I don't know how much that speeds up the animation.
Uh-huh.
Obviously that takes time. I love that they worked in the gag from the Invincible comics. There's a
Yeah.
gag in the comic where they talk about reusing uh
Yeah. Oh man.
square panels and that most
Yeah.
people don't notice, and it's for dramatic pauses and stuff to cut corners, and they worked in the same gag but for animating shows.
Yeah.
So got a tip of the hat to that. That
Oh
was
yeah.
brilliant.
That
Loved
whole
seeing.
moment is hilarious. That like there's an actual moment where that entire conversation goes down and it's just like, ha, they're doing this.
Yeah,
It's pretty funny.
yeah.
Yes, I
Andrew
enjoy
says
it.
you'll blow up, yeah, blow up
As
Twitter tomorrow with
always.
Invincible talk.
As always, this
um
show is my weekly reminder to make sure my anxiety medication is refilled.
Nice. All right, selling it. um but yeah, lots of other good stuff on right now. Julie says I watched Rick and Michonne's finale and loved it despite all the criticism it received. um I have heard a lot of criticism, but it seems like this is one of those instances where it's like fan expectations. Like most of the criticisms
Um,
I'm hearing are like it wasn't actiony enough and explosive enough. But like this is a show about their family coming back together, and it seems like that's what they kind of nailed in the finale. So I'm glad to hear you liked it, Julie. I haven't watched that yet, The Ones Who Lived. Rick's plot armor is
armor is
unreal.
unreal.
I mean, it wasn't good enough to save him from getting shipped off in a helicopter for like 3 seasons of The Walking Dead, Robert. But no, that's fair. If anyone's got plot armor, it's probably Rick.
Yeah.
So I can't argue it, but let the man have it. He survived a lot.
Yeah.
Um, the another one that I watched this week finally is Three Body Problem. Have you seen any of
I
that?
have not. I'm kind of curious, but I want to watch it, but I don't want to watch it. I'm weird when it comes to shows. But is it good?
Fair. It is really good. It is a dark show. So it's David
Okay. I
Benioff and
like
Dan
dark.
Weiss, along
Oh,
with Alexander Wu, who did True Blood.
okay.
I think they did. So for reference, I've not read the book. I know they had to make some pretty specific changes from the books just because they're very Chinese oriented and they were globalizing the story a little bit, which is something they did like with the author's blessing. Like
Mhm.
he said that idea to them when they met with him the first time. You're going to have to globalize this a little to make it work.
Mhm.
But I really liked it. It is a thorny, complex, slow burn show about basically like alien first contact. And what if we met aliens and they maybe didn't have our interests at heart? And
Oh,
what would that look like? And how would we react as a society to the idea that aliens are coming and stuff like that? So I really liked it, but it is you definitely want to make sure you take your any anxiety meds that
Oh
day too,
no.
because it's a very dark show. It definitely has trigger warnings at the
Oh,
top, and it should have them because there's a lot of suicide and death and really graphic stuff that happens. But as a whole, it's really interesting. It does some really interesting, cool things, and some things I've never really seen on TV before. Um,
really?
yeah, I will say if you start it, you should stick through at least episode 5 because
Okay.
everything before then is kind of set up. Like it's almost like 5 stuff goes down, and then it's like then you really get an idea of like what the show's about. Before
Okay.
that, it's a lot of mysteries and a lot of different elements. Like there's a video game that some people are playing that's very immersive, and they're wondering how the technology for it could exist and things like that. There's a murder mystery element. So there are a bunch of different things. And then in 5, the board changes. So
Gotcha.
it's
Okay.
really good. I hope it gets more seasons because it got way more interesting as it went on.
Okay. I
Um,
have to give that a watch. That and Shogun are two that I haven't started Shogun yet.
sh Again, another one that can be pretty heavy.
Oh, I'm fine
It's
with
so good
that. That
because
kind of
it's
heavy,
set.
I'm fine.
Yeah, it's a less disturbing heavy than three body problem. Yeah,
Okay.
a show to watch at night, Andrew says. It does have a pretty dark color palette, but it's yeah, Shogun is excellent. So episode 7 of that aired on Tuesday. It's got 3 more episodes left. It's a limited series, so once it's done,
Oh.
it's done. It's based on like a 1975 book, and the book was a standalone, so they're just doing the one-off season. And it's
Oh.
just been top notch. Like it really has been as probably close to like a flawless TV show as I've seen this year.
Really?
Yeah, the actors, the
Oh,
visuals, the costuming, like it's very obvious they put a ton of effort into doing this as like a feudal Japan like period piece,
yeah.
and they had like a Japanese crew, a lot of Japanese cast. Like they really went hard making sure that the authenticity was there because, there was like a 1980s Shogun miniseries, and
Hmm.
it did some things right. Like surprisingly, like I rewatched part of it because of the new show, but it's also like very obviously others the Japanese characters. Like it's that kind of story as a product of its time a little bit in a way that can
Gotcha.
be a little cringy, even though there are some things it does well. So it has been refreshing to see this new take on Shogun that is like really prioritizing balancing out the Japanese characters and the Japanese culture. So
Awesome.
that
Isn't
show's so
Anna
good.
Hawaii in this?
Yeah,
Anna,
she's a
she's in Monarch.
she yeah, so I didn't realize that until fairly recently. And if you
Uh-huh.
liked Anna Sawai from Monarch, you will
Yeah.
probably love her in this because this show really, really gives her the chance to flex her acting chops. Like
Awesome.
she's amazing.
Oh, yes, she
Um,
is. Yeah. Oh, I'm
uh,
excited. I'm gonna have to start watching that.
Do it. JP says, I wish the dialogue writing and some of the acting was better in Three Body Problem. Overall, it's a good story. Writing, though, was tough. Um, and I would agree with that a little bit. There are some bits of dialogue that I think are a little awkward, but on the
Gotcha.
whole, I still enjoyed it a lot. And yeah, Robert says Anna Sawai steals the show for at least the first 6 episodes.
Oh, that's
And
so cool. She's such a good
I think I'm
actress.
inclined. Yeah, she's great. And she plays Mariko, who's a translator. So she's speaking in Japanese and English. And there are all sorts of interesting things that the character does where like her translations are more or less accurate depending on where we are in the story and how she feels about everything that's
Oh,
going
that's
on.
cool. Oh, that's
Yeah,
cool.
it's a really, really meaty role for her. Um, but yeah, that's a lot of rambling. Anything else you're watching
Uh,
or
let's
playing?
do the list. Oh, I'm still playing Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. I haven't finished it yet. Just I've had
Okay.
to way too much to watch, honestly.
Yeah,
All
that's
those
pretty.
shows.
It's a good problem to have, but yeah, I feel that.
Yeah,
It has destroyed my sleep schedule for the past month. So I did finish Rebirth this past weekend, which is why I'm wearing my Rebirth hat.
I love it.
Um, and I won't talk about the end because you haven't finished it, and I wouldn't even want to remotely risk spoiling it for anyone. But I will say that I really liked it a lot. It's another one that had kind of a divisive ending, like from the reviews I read. Some people liked it more than others. I thought it was brilliant, but yeah, the whole game is a lot to mull on.
Yeah.
Probably one of the more impactful gaming experiences I've ever had, honestly, because
Yeah.
they really went hard on doing this story well and doing these characters justice in a way that I just thought was really moving. It's pretty
Yeah.
clear that they put a lot of care into it. Um, Robert Harris, yeah, get that Tears of the Kingdom. That's one I haven't beaten yet.
Yeah, we've talked about this. I'm not a fan of the new Zelda games. So I don't. It looks cool, sure, but I don't think I'll play it.
That's fair. I bounced off them at first. I now at this point I enjoy them a lot, but I never begrudge anyone if they say they're
Right.
not a huge fan because it is very different than old Zeldas.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, so that's what we've been watching, playing, all those sorts of things. Shall we close things out with a quick lightning round?
Let's do it.
Okay, so for those of you watching, if you haven't seen this before, we go through some news stories that we didn't have time to get to in the main show, summing them up in 20 seconds, or we are buzzed into shame and infamy by producer Richard. So if you hear a buzzer, that's what that sound is.
Yes,
Um,
that's the stop talking buzzard and go to the next question.
yes. All right. So I think I'm going to ask you the first one.
Okay.
I did put these in somewhat of an order.
All right. All
So
right.
this week we got the first official poster for the second Joker movie starring Joaquin Phoenix and Lady Gaga as
Mhm.
Harley Quinn. The Joker Folie à Deux. I think I'm saying that right. What are your thoughts?
I haven't seen Joker. I haven't seen the original. But I do love Lady Gaga, and I know Joaquin Phoenix is like an excellent actor, so maybe I'll go and watch the first one so I can watch it. Could be good. Yeah.
That's pretty fair.
Yeah.
That's a that's exactly how I feel about it too. I didn't see the first one, but it's like I'll give it a chance for Lady Gaga probably.
Yeah. All right. So, Daniel,
Yes.
apparently a fifth Matrix movie is in the works with Drew Goddard as the writer and director and Lana Wachowski as executive producer. How do we feel about that, and why do we need a fifth one? Because we do.
Do we? I
Do
don't
we?
know if we
Yes.
do. So I haven't seen Matrix Resurrections, so I will put this out there at the top. I don't know if it was good or bad. I'm not really too opinionated on it. I do think this will be interesting because it's the first time that a Wachowski has not been the director of a
Hmm.
Matrix movie. So I'm cautiously intrigued, but also the original trilogy just feels like its own thing, and this won't really change that to me.
True.
Um, you may have noticed, those of you watching, that 2 days ago was April Fool's Day. And if
Yeah.
you're on the internet, that means you probably got quite a lot of fooling thrown your way, including this one. So no, Studio Ghibli is not making a Legend of Zelda movie.
No, they're not. There is a Legend of Zelda movie being made, but it's like Nintendo and Arad Productions. It's not Studio Ghibli at all. It's not. They have nothing, no spoons in that game, unfortunately. As cute as it would be. You see little Navi floating around, like Ghibli Navi is something we need, and we kind of demand a little, but it would be cute. Oh,
It
perfect
would.
buzzer.
I would watch that.
Sandman season 2 will reportedly have 12 episodes, including Song of Orpheus, Brief Lives, A Midsummer Night's Dream, and the Season of Mists arc. How are we feeling about that?
Um, we're feeling right now today a little sad Dan's not here to be wicked hype about Sandman because he loves it.
He
But
loves
yeah,
it.
it's good news for Sandman fans. So basically, it looks like those are a bunch of really important stories from the comics, including one with Orpheus, one about William Shakespeare, who we saw very briefly in season 1, and then all of Dream's endless siblings. So yeah, exciting stuff for in the Sandman camp.
Mm-hmm.
Which, speaking of another Sandman thing, we got
Mm-hmm.
a new trailer today for Dead Boy Detectives, which is a Sandman spinoff, and it confirmed that Death, played by Kirby Howell Baptiste, will appear in it. Any interest?
I never finished the first season of Sandman purely because of time. I was very interested in season one, so I went to watch Sandman. And if this death person, I haven't gotten a feel for death yet. That sounds so weird saying that, but I think it'd be
Yeah,
cool. I do like the vibe of the show and stuff, so could be interesting
yeah,
for sure.
the vibes are strong.
Vibes are strong. So is his voice. So The Witcher has announced 3 new cast members. Charlton Copley as Leo Bonhart, James Purefoy as Stefan Skellen, and Denny Woodburn as Zoltan Chevet. Am I saying that right?
Yeah, Zoltan. I'm
Okay.
sorry. I realized belatedly I could just say the name, so I'm sorry to have put you through that gauntlet.
It's
Yeah, The
okay. It's
Witcher.
okay.
They announced new cast members today. So we already had an idea that Charlton Copley was playing Leo Bonhart. He is a really important villain from the books. Um, Danny Woodburn is Zoltan. Witcher 3 players, you
Mhm.
know Zoltan. We'll see him next season. He's a really important dwarf character. And then James Purefoy, look him up. He's a really well-known actor. He was in, I think, A Knight's Tale. He's going to be playing an evil diplomat in the
Neat.
next one. Spy Master. Um, okay, so Invincible talk. Apparently, Invincible quietly recast Ezra Miller. He played D.A. Sinclair
Mhm.
for reasons you probably could guess. Any thoughts about
Unfortunately.
this?
The whole thing with Ezra makes me really sad because I am one of the few people out there who like really enjoyed him as Barry. And
Yeah.
you know, consequences for actions, and it sucks. It's sad. But I do like the person
Yeah,
who voices him in the second part of the second season.
oh,
So it's
nice.
fine. Yeah, it's
That's
fine.
good at least. It's fine. It is what
It's
it
fine.
is.
It's what it is. The Walking Dead Daryl Dixon spinoff dropped a new trailer for season 2, which gives us our first look at Carol. Daryl is still in France, and Carol is now on the trail to try and find him. I love Carol. How do you feel about this?
Yeah, I love Carol too. So excited. Because the Daryl Dixon show was pretty decent. Daryl off in France. But Carol's just so damn interesting. And
Yeah.
anytime she shows up, things are gonna be interesting and unpredictable.
Oh
And that
yeah.
comes across even in the trailer. She walks up all unassuming to these mechanics asking questions, and then she pulls Daryl's crossbow on him. So
I
I'm
love it.
excited for this. Coming this summer,
Yes.
Daryl Dixon season 2. And that's our show for the day. Camilla, thank you so much for coming on.
You're so welcome. Thanks for having me. Love coming over here and chatting with you guys.
Anytime. We need to do it more.
Yes.
And for all of you out there listening, thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to mash that like and subscribe button if you have not. And check us out on Spotify, on Apple Music, all your usual podcast places. And for now, I am out of puns. So we're just going to call it there. And Dan
Yeah.
will be back next week with puns
Yeah.
for you.
Yeah.
Take care.
Winter is leaving. Bye.
Winter is leaving.